Welcome back, everyone, to our final episode of this Lenten series. I'm Abby.
And I'm Father Raf. And welcome to anyone who's joining us online. So in these 3 episodes, we really see a great character development both in Nicodemus and Matthew. So maybe, Abby, you can tell us what was your kind of moment in these 3 episodes for Nicodemus's character?
For Nicodemus's character, what really stood out to me was the moment when Jesus was with the paralytic man. Because the Pharisees came in and came to enforce law and say, well, you can't have a public crowd here. But the other Pharisees, when the Romans came in, everything went scattered. The other Pharisees with Nicodemus was frantically going all over the place and not really noticing what was going on. But Nicodemus, he stopped and saw the paralytic man walk. And that was what really stood out to me, because Nicodemus was always just kind of confused about some things, even with Mary. And he stood out as a Pharisee. This was his role as an academic to explore and research. So when he saw the paralytic man walk, he was probably feeling all how did this happen? So it just separated himself from the other Pharisees and him. How about you? What was your Nicodemus moment?
So for me, it's on the other side of these episodes. It's the moment where Nicodemus has a chance. Jesus tells him, we're going to leave at this time on this day. And Nicodemus was so close. Jesus says, you were so close, right? And just to see Nicodemus, with his back against the wall, crying, he's in pain, and that just went right to the core. I think it's fairly normal, I think, for many of us in our journey of following Jesus to have certainly moments of regret and pain, that maybe we knew what we maybe should have done or even wanted to do and just didn't. But the good news, though, is that this is not the end for Nicodemus, as we know from the Gospels, right? So, for example, during the Passion, Nicodemus makes a comment about how according to the law, they need to give Jesus a hearing before they can judge him. And then, of course, we know at the burial of Jesus, when all the disciples have run away, Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus show up. And Nicodemus, we hear, brought 100 pounds of myrrh and aloes for the embalming of the body. That's a lot. And so I think there's a great hope, that for each one of us in our following of Jesus, no matter what our decisions have been, it's not at the end of the story. But certainly this moment for me was just very painful to watch. And I think that kind of reminds me of my moment for Matthew. So for Matthew, my moment was in his conversation with his mother, and she kind of recounts his childhood. And, this is the first time we really get some insight into the background of Matthew's story. And she says, the rabbis were astounded with his ability to learn and math, and that they thought he would be great. And then he just kind of snaps up, but great at what? I have money, I have a personal armed escort. And so here we see Matthew in pain, right? But then it's kind of like the opposite of Nicodemus. Eventually, when he responds to Jesus's invitation, we find him really at peace, and especially and belonging for the first time, hosting that dinner party. So how about you? What was your moment for Matthew?
Well, my moment for Matthew was, again, with the conversation with his mother, but closer to the beginning, because we see in the past episodes when it was Shabbat and he went to go see his mom and family, he kind of hesitated. But in this matter, when he was seeing impossible things happen, he was like, I need to get guidance from my mom. So he went to his house, and it was really unfortunate, and it saddened me a bit when he was talking to his mom, but she wasn't listening to him. So it was just this conversation back and forth when Matthew, we see and we know what he wants to ask, and we know what he needs from his mom, but she's not responding in that way because of what he did, because he was a tax collector. And right in the moment when he says, do you believe impossible things can happen? That was the moment where I was like, he's starting to get it. He's starting to open his mind, because Matthew was always very straight to the point. Like he said, he was successful based on how much money he was getting. But when he was seeing these impossible things happen, he mentions that everything is not as he thought it would be. And that's what really stood out to me in that conversation with Matthew and his mom. So we both see in these past episodes with Matthew and Nicodemus, we both see them witness impossible things happen. And based on those things, they start to have that faith and questioning. And so my question to you is, do you think that we need to see impossible things to have faith?
Well, what do you think?
Now, Father Raph, we can't go in this episode without talking about the final scene of our Lenten series. And fun fact about this scene, this was the first story that I heard from the Gospels that I understood as a kid. And what I really took from this, and what I understood and talked to my papa about, was that Jesus was there for everyone.
And that really, I think, is what also stood out to me. In the beginning, we just kind of we get a sense of where the Samaritan woman is at. Like Jesus says something, and she says something deprecating about herself, like, that no woman would want to be seen with her. And then if he says something else, then she responds with anger, right? And then even responds with some hopeful things, and then she just kind of shuts it down with like sarcasm or cynicism. And it's just these really walls, right? And it's kind of beautiful because Jesus is talking specifically about this. He's come to break down those barriers, that they will neither worship in Jerusalem or on this mountain. It won't matter who you are or what you've done. But she just keeps throwing up those walls. For me, the moment is when he begins, as she's walking away, then he begins to recite for her just the first two of her 5 husbands, but not in a condemnatory way, not like, oh, you did this or you did that, but kind of really like that he shows her that he knows her heart. That the things that she experienced, the things that we think that, no one would understand, or even if they heard that they wouldn't care, or maybe they might meet it with judgment or something. And he speaks it so beautifully to her, and he really shows that he understands. And for me, that is actually what makes those walls come down. That when we know and experience in ways that we can understand, that God understands us.
Thank you to everyone who's been joining us in person and online. And thank you, Callum, for all your video editing skills and for showing us how to use the camera and the light and making this all professional. And thank you to Amanda, who has been helping us and arranging us with the online aspects of things, making sure that it is accessible for everyone to come and see. Thank you so much to both my parents who have supported me throughout this whole process. And Father Raph, thank you for your input and your very hard work, even though it's been the busiest time for you. So thank you so much for that.
And I think we all want to thank you, Abby. Many people have spoken to me and they said, just your enthusiasm and your perspective has just been very life-giving. And so thank you. So don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And for those of you who are wondering, what comes next?
Please stay tuned.